Hey guys, welcome back to another edition of Intuitive Angling. Much appreciate you guys checking today's video out. And man, I'm just trying to cool off a little bit. Then just got out of the gym, and man, our gym doesn't have air conditioning, so it was pretty steamy in there today. The air temperature outside's like 101, so it was didn't take long to work up a sweat today, and cooling off under the carport here. And been in a battle with these dang chickens in our yard. If you guys have been watching many of the videos I've been doing, you know we got we got 8 chickens in our yard. My wife Kim's been wanting to have some organic eggs, but anyway, I've got some raised garden beds in the yard here, and I'm putting some potatoes in them. And those dang chickens, I can't keep them out of my potato patch, so I've been fighting with them all day long. So anyway, I've been wanting to do today's video for quite a long time. We're going to talk about the reasons bass hit a lure besides when they're hungry, and give you some tips and advice on how to capitalize on that. Real quick, just wanted to give you guys a weekly update or reminder before we get started. If you haven't had a chance to go by fishthemoment.com and check out our lake map breakdowns, I'd like to invite you to do so. We got lake map breakdowns, summer breakdowns all over the country. Me, Matt Steffen, Johnny Schultz, we build them. We can custom build a map for you, or we got a big map catalog on the website. If you want to learn more about your favorite lake and to find some good spots on there, check them out at fishthemoment.com. Much appreciated. Okay, let's talk about this. This is actually one of my favorite topics, guys, about why bass bite lures other than when they're feeding. Here's my theory on the thing, and this is a theory that I've developed from my own experimentation through reproducible results and some data that I've collected over the years of my own fishing. In my opinion, I think bass feed most of the time at night. Now, they're opportunistic feeders, and if something comes up their way, they're going to try to get it. But I think the act of feeding that bass do is at night for the most part. I think that's when, you know, they hunt the crawdads more. I just think when they're more active and they roam more, I think they're up in shallow water actively hunting bass. And one of the reasons I know that they feed at night mainly is so many times at Table Rock Lake, I've caught suspended bass in the middle of the lake, like suspended 40 foot down over 60 or 70 foot of water, like on drop shots or something like that. And the bass will have crawdads sticking out of their throat. Now, they didn't catch those crawdads swimming out in the middle of the lake. They were up on the bank somewhere. I think that those fish that are suspended swam to the bank at night, fed up on crawdads, and swam back out, you know, to their suspended locations during the daytime. I think that stuff happens a lot. But in my opinion, here's the reasons bass strike a lure. I think the first of all, in really no particular order, I think they strike a lure out of curiosity, out of competition, out of reflex, out of anger. I think those are 4 of the main reasons that they actually bite a lure. And I think probably their strongest feeding instinct is from reflex. Bass, they've evolved over millions of years to be really opportunistic and not hesitate. So that's one of the reasons like reaction baits work so good. For example, if you're throwing a bait that's moving real quick, and especially if it moves quick past an object, that's why those techniques are so productive, is because you capitalize on that reaction strike from the bass. They don't have time to think. They either have to say, okay, I've got to get this or it's going to get away, or they don't go for it. And a lot of times you can trigger those fish from a speedy retrieve. Curiosity is another thing. I mean, I think a lot of times if you're fishing a slow bait along the bottom, something that looks really realistic, I think a lot of times the fish will study it and they're curious about it before they hit it. Same with like a big glide bait or a big swim bait. These baits that look very realistic in clear water, I think a lot of times they're curious about those. They study them, and sometimes they'll make a mistake out of that curiosity and bite that. The anger part of it is another thing. I think a lot of times that, you know, if bass are in a certain mood, particularly like around the spawn, you can get those fish angry. They're trying to protect their eggs. They're trying to build nests. I think you can capitalize on that anger reflex. And then the competition part of it, a lot of times, if you have ever been in a school of bass, like for example, catching them on a deep crankbait out of the school, a lot of times it's hard maybe to get that first bass to bite out of that school. But many times, if you're on a school of fish and you get one fish to bite, it sort of creates a competitive feeding frenzy, and that's why a lot of times on those school fish you'll catch 2 bass on one cast. You can catch bass on multiple casts, like 5 or 6 casts in a row. The competition factor kicks in at that point. So the point of the video is when you're trying to determine how to go about your day as far as how to approach, keep that in mind. Keep in mind that you're not really going for those actively feeding fish. You're going for those fish that you're trying to trigger some type of response from them other than being hungry. And that gives you a lot of different opportunities. That gives you a lot of different techniques that wouldn't normally apply to, if you're just out for, trying to catch and feeding fish. So it just goes back in again to studying bass behavior and becoming a student of the sport and a student of the fish. The more that you pay attention to every single bass that you catch, the more clues that it gives you and how to catch the next bass. So that's one of the things that I found out. I think that, that reflex is by far the #1 thing that triggers strikes in bass fishing more than anything. So try to capitalize on that as much as possible. And I think it adds up to a few more fish. So hope that sheds some light on the topic, and we'll talk to you guys later. See you.